Hello, everyone. It's Cathy Mazak, and I'm back today to talk to you about workflows. The idea behind a workflow and what it is really just a normal protocol kind of for how you deal with certain things. So, for example, what we're going to be talking about today as our example is is thesis. What is the protocol for when you're the advisor of somebody reading their thesis? So, hi, Ute. So that's the one example, but it really could be like anything. Like anything could use a workflow, right? So even simple things like weekly workflows of how you set your goals and how you create your to-do lists, daily workflows for the same. It's like getting yourself into little routines. And the cool thing about a workflow is that it saves you time because you're not inventing the workflow again every time. Instead, you have kind of a set way to do things. You don't have to think up how to do it. It saves you energy for the same reason. And one of the things I'm going to show you in today's workflow is that it really saves you email back and forth. So there are ways if you create workflows and then communicate those to other people, they can really help you to make sure that you're not having unnecessary email back and forth and stuff like that. So let's jump into it. I'm just going to create an example workflow for you in Trello. And I teach in a master's program where I supervise thesis students. So here's an idea about how you could create a workflow about that. All right, let me share my screen. Here we are in Trello. So my screen is getting crowded. There we go. All right, so here's Trello. And if this is the first video that you're watching about Trello, you've never seen it before, Trello has three parts. It has board, which every project will have a board. It's a little, and there's other ways you can use boards as well, but basically you're going to have multiple boards. And then on each board, you can make lists horizontally across as long as you want. You can keep scrolling out to the right. And then on each list, you can add cards, and that's what we're going to be doing. This is a super visual interface. It's very simple, but it's a great container for really like whatever you want to create with it. So I'm going to show you this way to work with your students on thesis. So let's imagine that this is a particular student's thesis. But we'll just call him or her student for right now. So the first thing you're going to do is create a board, which is super simple. I already did that. You just click on boards and then hit create boards. By the way, Trello is free. So all the features that I show you in my videos are free features. There's nothing, I don't use any of the fancy features or automations, which you totally could do, and it could be even more amazing. But for now, I'm just using all the free features that are there. All right, so what you'll need to do is get your student to also sign up for Trello and to invite your student to this board. So the way that you do this is you click share and you'll put the student's email address there. And then the student will get an email. They'll say, hey, this person, that you've invited them to the board. They can click through, create their free account, and then they're ready to go, and both of you will show up as members of the board. See my little face there? Well, there'll be other people's faces there too. Hi, Ninfa. And you can do this alternatively with a link that you create. So if you're going to send it to more than one person, you could create a link and have people join this board with a link. Again, everybody has to have their own Trello account for this, but it's like a two-step process and it's free. So it's really a no-brainer. Okay, so you create a board, you invite your student to share the board with you, and having your student as a member of the board lets you use features that are email reducing features. So it lets you tag people. So you can use the @ symbol to tag the student when you want to tell them something. It lets you watch cards or have your and turn on and off notifications for certain tasks. And it lets you assign tasks by creating, you can have members of the board be members of a certain card, and that is a way of assigning things, to somebody. So I'll show you what that means in a second. Ooh, but I want to sneeze. Oh, okay. All right, so here's how the workflow looks. Sneezy. Excuse me, sorry about that. Hope you protected your ears. Okay, so first, every simple workflow could be expressed, and this is not the workflow we're going to end up with, but this is a very simple workflow, right? To do, doing, done. But we're going to modify this workflow for specifically reading and developing a thesis as an advisor to a student. So here in to do, you would have, this is the to do for the student, okay? And then you're going to add a card of the things that you want the student to do. So hi Lisa. So you're going to say, like, let's break it down in chapters. So we'll have write chapter 1, write chapter 2, etc., etc. You can just go crazy here with the list of to-dos. Data analysis, collect data, whatever, all the things, read things at the library. You can imagine how all the different moving parts of a thesis, you can have them listed out here in the student's to-do list. But here's where it gets interesting. You can then, during the revisions process, which is what I really wanted to show you, you can use a little workflow here so that everybody knows where every chapter is and who needs to be doing what. So, all right. So this student, I'm going to arrange this like this. All right, this student, actually, I'm going to change it to, well, doing, this could also be writing. I have notes here. And then for review, for the professor's review, whoops, there we go. And then let's change this one. Let's add, sorry, I got little windows in the way here. And this one is going to be revising. Sorry, I have to move this. There we go. Okay, so here's our little workflow. We've got the student to-do list, and so this acts as a bucket of all the to-dos. And then we have the doing, writing. So the student lets you know what she is doing or writing by pulling the card over here to this list. Then, I'm going to show you the back of the card in a minute, but let me just do the kind of top level workflow. Then, when she is finished doing the writing, she pulls the card into review. And ideally, when she does that, she tags you in the card, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Then, after you've given her feedback, you move the card to revising and tag her again and say, okay, this is ready for you to revise. And then when she is done with that revising, she sweeps it right back here for review. And then maybe she's revising again, and maybe it goes back and forth a couple times, and then it goes to done. Got it? So let me show you some functionality on the back of the card that will be useful if you decide to use this while you're working with your student on a thesis project. So a couple of things. One is that you can use either the attachment function or putting a link to a Google Doc in the description to link straight to the document, which is really helpful. This avoids you emailing versions back and forth. So especially if you use Google Docs, you're going to eliminate that email version problem. So let's imagine that there's a Google Doc attached to here. When the student is ready for you to review it, they move it over here. Same Google Doc is attached, and they tag you. So since I don't have any members on this board, but let's imagine, that, or sorry, at professor, whatever, your name is, this is ready for your review, and save it. And then you get a notification that you were tagged. And depending on how you have notifications set up in Trello, you could be getting emails for each notification, which I don't recommend. But basically we have a notifications area here under the red bell in the top right corner, and that's how you would get them. You could also have like notifications set up on your phone because there's a Trello app. Oh my, this is a sneezy live video. Sorry about that. Okay. So then you're reviewing it, and you're reviewing it at the same Google Doc that's linked here. You use track changes or comments or whatever. Alternatively, to give you some other ideas for how you might give feedback to a student, you could use a tool like Loom, which lets you record a video and be talking through the person's draft in a recorded video and then drop the link to that video right here. With Loom, you don't have to download it or anything. It's free. It's pretty cool. It just lets you do voice over screen recordings very simply. And so you could do a Loom video for them and drop it here in the description or whatever you're going to do to give them feedback. And then you tag them at student. This is ready for revisions. You've tagged them, and then you move it over to revising. Now, there are some ways that you can automate this. So you could have a checklist too. That's another way to do this. And there are automations that you can use, but you have to pay. That's why I'm not using them. That once something gets checked off, it moves to the new list. But this is a very straightforward thing to do, right? And then the person's revising it, and exactly when it's back for review, it goes over here. The point is that you always can see where all the chapters are in like a really nice visual way, right? And you don't have to do these back and forth emails. Okay, then I'm going to, Megan, don't be fooled. I have a folder system going on. All right, let me answer Uta's question, and then I'm going to talk to Megan about the unread emails. Okay, I'm reading the comments. Uta, does this work for a paper with 4 co-authors? If you can get all your 4 co-authors on board, it absolutely would. And this is what I would do. And I actually, inside my new program that I'm releasing tomorrow, I have a board for this, and I talk about co-authoring I have a template board for that. But basically, you just want to make sure you're using, like when you have all your tasks written out here, you would use this feature of adding a member to the card. So if you click members, then you could add the co-author who is supposed to be working on that task, or more than one, right, to a card. And that way you know who is assigned what, which is really nice. And then you would just use a really similar workflow, right? So you could have columns. You can go out like as many times as you want out to the right. So you could have a writing column for each author, and they could be pulling the to-dos into there. And then for review, but you would need, for this to work really nicely and eliminate emails, you would need to use tag people and everything so that they know who's supposed to be working on what. I wouldn't use this for more than 4 people. 4 is maybe the upper limit. And especially I would define of those 4 people, is everybody doing active writing on that? Or was somebody just needs to review things and give their stamp, So it depends too on how much actual pen to paper writing different people are doing. So So anyway, yes, it could work for co-authors. It would work very nicely. Megan, do not be fooled by my inbox being at 10. I am going to be 100% honest with you and tell you that I have a folder system and I pay somebody to help me with my email. That is how bad my email problem is. So I have somebody go in and I hired somebody to create me a folder system, and she goes in every other day and she moves stuff into folders. So she deletes all the crap and she does that. I have an assistant that I pay for that. So just letting you know that it's not me, because I am the world's worst at email. Okay. Mary says, I've been doing this with my research students and it's awesome. Yay, Mary. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm wondering if there's a way I can better organize all of my boards. Like if I have 6 to 7 students, each with their own board, is there some sort of grouping function? Good question, Mary. A couple of things. One is that you can star boards. So within Trello's functionality, if you give a board a star, then it becomes one of your important boards. And you can move these around. And I don't know, you'd have to Google this, how many starred boards you could have, whether there's a limit, right? But what I do know is that you can move these around, and that's kind of nice because you could put your top one first. In the program that I'm releasing tomorrow, what I actually teach you how to do and also deliver to you as a template is this idea of a home base board. And basically what you do is you keep the active projects on a board, which would be like the first board that you open. Hi, Anne. Yes, Megan, pay somebody. I can't decide. Well, email's a whole nother live video. Okay. So back to Mary's question. So grouping the boards. So you can either have them starred and they could be there. You could create a board that was like my student's board. So, because what you can do in Trello is then you could have, I'm sorry, I'm backtracking. I'll finish what I'm going to say. So what you can do in Trello is you can link boards to each other. Hi, Natanya. So when you go to attachment, you can go to Trello and you can link it to any other board. Like I link it to this board and then I can jump directly from one board to another. So that would be a way to collect up boards. So for example, if you use this home base board method that I teach in the course, you could have your home base board and you would have a column that was like students I'm working with, and each of them would get a card and each card would link out to their board. So then the way that I teach it in the course is like every semester you're going to want to just like revamp your home base board so that the most important projects are on it. There's a little more to it than that, but the basic thing I would say, Mary, is to link up, is that you could create a board that links to other boards. And so it's like a holding space, or it's like the first board you open, right? So that you can manage having, 6 or 7 students that each have their own board, right? Okay, I hope that makes sense. Yay! Hello, Natanya and Anne and everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Any other questions before I jump off? I hope you enjoyed this little workflow. I think that you can see how it would avoid unnecessary emails. So I think, just to go back to the email thing, like part of there's a new book out called Digital Minimalism, and it's by the author of Deep Work, who I like, or I like the idea of deep work. So when you and one of the things he says is, and he actually does this in Deep Work, he talks about like the unnecessary email, and that one of the ways to reduce the number of emails that you have is like to say all the important information in one email, and you avoid this volleying back and forth. Well, Trello really helps you to communicate through Trello, And so you communicate in context, which is another thing that I like about it. So like if this is a card about chapter 1, you could have communication about chapter 1 right on this card. So you like, I don't know, you like always know what you're talking about. Does that make sense? Like it, to me, it's very helpful in terms of eliminating unnecessary emails. Mary says, thank you. Homebase would help. What about the team function? I'm also thinking it would be nice if there is a way I could let other students see other students' progress, or do I need to have everyone else's board? Yes, so you could totally make a team out of you and all your students. The difference, from how I understand it, between team and just sharing a board is like a team is useful if you're always sharing the same boards with the same people. So like I'm on a team. Does this have it? Yeah, with Esther and I are a team because she's my online business manager. And so she and I are always sharing boards together. We have most of these boards are boards that I share with her. So, so you would just be kind of like adding and taking away students to your team as as they graduate, for example. So you could totally do that with teams. It's just I think that teams, in my understanding, are just like a slightly slicker way of doing the of adding people to a board, of sharing a board with people. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, have everybody on you. Basically, the team would be having everybody on everybody else's board. But yeah. Okay. Cynthia says, I don't know if I missed it, but if I leave a note for a student, do they have to go into Trello to see the note, or does it send a message by email? Either one. So the student, like because the student is the student should have email notifications set up. So if you go to Trello Help, you can search. Their help is very nice and all online, and you can just search for Trello notifications. And actually, if you go to, I'll pop in here later so I don't spend too much time searching for the link, but if you download my free Trello templates, there's some bonus materials in there that link up to like their stuff about notifications and everything. But basically, if you just like searched Google Trello notifications, you would see that you can turn on email notifications. And there's another little feature that's cool, which is that you can watch a board. So if you click watch here, and then you set up your watch notifications to email you all the time whenever anything happens on the board, then they would get an email whenever something happened. If you don't set up email, then you're always going to get notifications here in the notifications tab. So like, or like for me, like I have it set up on my phone because I don't mind I actually enjoy seeing little notifications on my phone that work is progressing, but I really don't like to see it over email. So, so yeah, you could have them watch, make sure that you have to teach them this, that they've clicked to watch all the cards and that they have their notifications set up, because you need to tell them this is the way that we're going to communicate about the thesis. No problem. Mary and Natanya asked, for grad students you are working with, can all the persons on the team or committee can comment? Yes. Is there a way to make comments to a team invisible to others? I'm going to say there's probably not. So this is really like everybody's going to see the comments on a card, or nobody's going to see the comments on a card. So, so that's something to think about, Natanya. Yes. So if you don't want other people, like if you don't, like, because there's one thing you can do, right, with what I do. It's like, I don't want to see the reader's comments. I don't want to see my students, the other committee members' comments. I want the student to address the comments and tell me what they did. So I wouldn't necessarily have all the readers on a board, but you could. It's for me, like, and the way that we work in my master's program, the readers are the readers. The chair is the person who's really working high touch with the student, because the readers are basically doing it ad honorem, and the chair is getting credit on their work plan for the student. So at least here, there's like a pretty big distinction between the two. Can Trello text a student? I think that I don't know. but we could find out. And they certainly can. In the app, you would get a notification. So you just set up notifications. So you get a notification just as you would a text. So, like on my phone, right? So on the phone, oh, look, I have one. Hold on. To show you. Maybe I'll stop sharing my screen and just go to video so you can see it bigger. So I don't know if you can see this in any reasonable way. But basically, this is a Trello notification, and if I click on it, it's gonna open Trello and jump right to it. So it's really like the same as getting a text message in terms of how it works on the phone. And I agree, texting is so 2010. Cynthia, I'm convincing you. Okay, no problem, Tanya. Thanks, everybody. I actually have to go. Speaking of students, I got to go teach my class. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to drop the link later in here, which is where you can get my Trello templates. Which are basically just 3 different writing project templates set up as a little mini course, but it's just because the course is the container for the things. It shows you how to download, which is really copying the boards, and how to use them, and has some bonus stuff in there that's kind of nice. And then I wanted to let you know that tomorrow I will be going live, and I will be talking more broadly and in a more organized way with slides at 1 p.m. my time, noon Eastern coast of the United States time. And I'll be talking about Organize Your Academic Life, which is my new course that some people have pre-enrolled in. We had a little pre-enrollment in December, but now is going to be open to the public and open to everyone. So if you register tomorrow when the course opens, then it's $100 off. So that's early bird registration advantage. So stay tuned. You'll be getting an email from me about that, and I'll be going live tomorrow to talk more about organizing your academic life. I'm going to give you 5 strategies for leading the organized academic life. And by the way, none of them are about how to keep your office clean, because I can see by the back, or your bookshelves tidy. Yeah, I don't teach that. All right. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.